Before Emily and I were married, she had a goal: free by 23. She wanted to be financially free before her 23rd birthday. Done working for money, living life on her own terms. It was ambitious and specific and completely hers. The kind of goal that tells you something about a person before you know everything else about them. Well, her 23rd birthday came and went. The dream didn't die exactly, but it got quieter. And I watched that happen. And it did something to me that I didn't have words for at the time. This is about the story of what I did about it. When Emily and I were young and newly in love and convinced we were going to figure out the world faster than everyone else, we got involved in MLM. I say that without shame because I think a lot of people have a version of this story and most of them feel embarrassed about it, and they shouldn't. We had genuinely good mentorship in that season, people who taught us about goal setting, who put high quality books in our hands, who walked us through how to have difficult conversations. The personal development was real, even when the business model wasn't the right vehicle for us. But eventually, like most young, ambitious people who were honest with themselves, we looked at the statistics and made a decision. The dream we were chasing was more likely to be built a different way, so we stepped out. For me, that decision felt clean. For Emily, it was harder. We lost relationships that had meant something. There was a season of loss of purpose. And I remember watching Emily process the feeling, the life she had imagined for herself, the freedom, the timeline, the dream that had been so vivid might not be coming the way she had pictured it. I saw part of the vision for her life drop to the floor, and it shattered me. I went back to her wedding vows in my head, the promise I made standing across from her that we would pursue a life of excellence together, that my dream was to make her vision a reality. It was one thing to say something like that in a ceremony with everyone watching. It is a completely different thing to live it out on a Thursday when things aren't going the way you planned. I made a decision. I was going to retire my wife. Now, I know that sounds like completely absurd. She's not collecting old age security. She's a mother, not a retiree in any traditional sense. But that's not what I meant. What I meant was this. I wanted to create enough income outside of my salary, but if Emily never wanted to work for money again, she would never have to. Her time would be entirely her own. That was the goal. That was the promise I reset privately. I committed to without telling her how serious I was. We had just paid off $70,000 in debt. We were not swimming in resources. Neither of us came from money. Nobody handed us anything, and we didn't want them to. What we had was a decision that we would do hard things and the willingness to live like we meant it. We lived beneath our means for years. No restaurants, no new clothes unless something wore out, but usually bought secondhand. We found items to flip to make extra money on the side. I kept delivering skip the dishes after full days at the bank because every dollar was a dollar closer. We were still living. We were still enjoying each other and our family, but we knew that the choices we were making at this season were setting us up for a lifetime of options. Then we saved enough for a down payment on a house with a legal basement suite. We lived upstairs and rented the basement. And somehow, by doing just that one thing, we were paying less per month than we had been paying in rent. We had a tangible asset generating income, and that was the first real proof that the method was working. Then we bought another house, then another. The process was simple, even when it wasn't easy. Save aggressively, acquire assets that pay you monthly, work hard in your career and keep moving up. Let the compounding do what compounding does over time. Now, I want to be clear that real estate is not passive income. There are tenants and repairs and 11 p.m. phone calls about things that aren't working. The work is real and the income is real too. And slowly over time, we got to a point where Emily's salary was no longer a necessity. It was nice to have. It created more options, but we didn't need it. That feeling is hard to describe. We had built the thing, not quickly or easily, not without years of delayed gratification and decisions that didn't make sense to people watching from the outside, but we had built it. The question was how to market. Emily was working from home at that time. She had a countdown going until her last day before maternity leave with our third child. We had been joking about her retirement day constantly, but Emily really didn't realize how serious I actually was about it. So, on her last day of work, I showed up at the house with a limousine, a bouquet of flowers, her parents, and our kids. I called her and asked her to come outside, and I watched her jaw drop. Neighbors came out of their houses to see what was happening, and imagine trying to explain to your neighbors that your wife is retiring and neither of you are in your 30s yet. It didn't make any sense. It barely made sense to us. But we got into the limo and drove into town. And we pulled into the parking lot at my office. About 30 of our friends were waiting. Signs, cheering, saying, "Welcome to retirement," things that were making us laugh. And truthfully, a lot of them didn't know the full picture of what was happening because this was a dream Emily and I had held so closely to ourselves. But they were there anyway, because that's what people do when they love you. We stood together in that parking lot, and I handed Emily two things: an alarm clock and a sledgehammer. On the side of the sledgehammer, a friend had engraved the word freedom and the date. And as I passed the sledgehammer to Emily, I told her she could smash the alarm clock because she would never again have to wake up for a job. Every now and then, I pull up the video just to hear it. The moment the hammer comes down, the sound of the clock breaking into 1,000 pieces, and then the eruption of cheers from the people around us who had no idea how long we had been quietly working toward this moment. It was one of the most significant days of my life. Not because of what we had built financially, but because of what I had promised her when the dream was lying on the floor, and what it meant to be standing there with it in my hands, handing it back to her. This is not a story about money. It's a story about a promise and what it costs to keep it. Most people make vows on wedding days, in quiet moments and conversations that feel significant at the time. And then life moves fast, and the vows get buried under the weight of everything that needs to happen today. The kids, the bills, the career, the mortgage, the next thing. And slowly, without anyone deciding to let it go, your promise just becomes something you used to mean. I refuse to let that be my story. The dream Emily had at 23 wasn't mine to give up on just because the timeline changed. It was hers, and I had told her that my dream was to make her vision a reality. That sentence either means something or it doesn't. For any husband listening to this, I want to ask you something directly. What did you promise her? Not on the wedding day necessarily. In the ordinary moments, the conversation in the car, the thing you said you would do that got pushed back and eventually just stopped being mentioned. The dream she had that you nodded along to and then quietly stopped. You stopped believing it was possible. What would change in your marriage if you took that promise seriously? I'm not saying you have to retire your wife. Not everyone's goals look like ours, and it shouldn't. But the principle underneath it is available to every husband in every circumstance. Find the vision she has for her life, the thing that she actually wants, and then ask yourself, what are you willing to do to help her get there? To me, that truly is the currency of happiness. Not the sledgehammer moment, but the years of ordinary choices that made the sledgehammer moment possible. There's a moment in that video I keep coming back to. It's not the sledgehammer coming down, not the cheering, the moment just before. Emily's standing there, holding the hammer, looking at the alarm clock, and you could see on her face the distance between the girl who had a dream at 23 and the woman standing in a parking lot, being told the dream came true. That distance is our marriage. That's the years of choosing each other, the hard seasons and the lean seasons, and the seasons where neither of us were sure the math was going to work out. It didn't give Emily freedom that day. We built it together. I just got to be the one who handed her the hammer. So here's what I want to ask you. What is a dream your person is carrying that you haven't taken seriously enough? And what is one decision you can make this week to start moving toward it? If this episode meant something to you, would you share it with one person? Maybe it's a husband, a father, a wife. Share it with someone who needs to reignite that vision, reignite that dream, to make those ordinary decisions and turn it into a spectacular one. Thank you.